Hey everyone, apologies for missing round 8 of the British Chess Championships. I got a bit held up, but today we're going to look at a round 8 game between Michael Adams versus Richard Pert. And this is a very crucial game for both players. If they win, say 2 out of 2, they've got a really good chance of becoming British champion. So in this game, Michael Adams is white, Richard Pert is black. Adams plays e4, Richard plays c6, and we get into a Caro Kann with d4, d5, and now e5. So straight away, Richard plays a very rare move as black. He plays c5 here, and I think the idea is to get a really good French. So you get your bishop out somewhere, maybe pin a knight, and then play e6 afterwards. The only problem is for black is that they're now a tempo down because it's taken this black pawn 2 moves to get to c5 rather than 1. So in the game, Adams played knight to f3 here to secure this d4 pawn, and black plays knight to c6. And I really like Adams' next move here actually. He plays c4, so instead of opting for c3 and getting to a bad French for white, he plays more active c4, and this can cause black some problems. For instance, if black now takes on c4 with the d pawn, white's got a tremendous position. They play d5, hitting the knight, and if knight d4, white can play bishop takes c4 with an excellent game now for white. For instance, bishop g4, white can actually take on d4, black takes on the queen, bishop b5 check, queen d7 is the only move to play, and white can actually play e6 here. After f takes e6, d takes e6, the queen is pinned by the bishop on b5, so black's got to capture it. Queen takes bishop, knight takes queen, and now knight c7 is threatened by this knight, so black has to castle queenside to defend the bishop on d1 as well. White can play knight takes a7 with check. After king b8, knight b5, white's just doing very well here. So white's actually a pawn up, and this e6 pawn is going to be very annoying for black to deal with. Easy moves for white will just be bishop f4 check, maybe knight c3, and straight away hit this bishop on d1. So for this reason in the game, obviously black didn't take on c4. Instead, Richard decided to play c takes d4 here, and Mickey now captured on d4 with the knight. D takes c4 is possible now, but I think white gets a really good position. For instance, knight takes c6, queen takes d1 with check, king takes, b takes c6, and white can play bishop takes c4. And the material is even, but black's now got this really weak c6 pawn, which can become a very big target in the endgame, and you don't really want this against Michael Adams. So for this reason, in this position, Richard now played e6, and white continued developing with knight c3. Black plays bishop c5, hitting the knight on d4, so white captures on c6, b takes c6, and white just calmly plays bishop to e2. So notice how white is actually keeping the tension in the centre. White will probably never capture that d5 pawn, because black will probably take with the c pawn, have a tremendous pawn structure with these 3 pawns. So white will probably never go in for this. Instead, white will keep the tension throughout the game. So knight e7 is played by black, white castles, and black plays knight g6, attacking the pawn on e5. So f4 can't be played at the moment to defend this because the bishop is on c5. So Mickey actually hits the bishop first with knight to a4, and the bishop drops back to e7, and now this allows white to play f4 to defend the e5 pawn. Black castled here, and Mickey now played bishop to e3, so developing the bishop to a very nice square, just controlling this diagonal now, and stopping any bishop c5 or queen b6 ideas if this knight ever moves. So black played f6 here, so this is a good move I would say, hitting out at the white's solid centre. White takes on f6, and now bishop takes f6, and this bishop's got a reasonable scope now, attacking this b2 pawn. But the pawn is defended by this knight on a4, so it actually does quite a good job. But I really like Mickey's next move now, because he targets possibly the weakest piece for black, which is the knight on g6, which is a bit of an awkward piece. He plays bishop to d3, and now white has these 2 raking bishops preparing to attack the king side for black and double the g-pawns. I think black now should maybe play e5 here. I think e5 would have been a good move. This sort of forces white to take on d5 now, because e4 is a big threat coming up. So if c takes d5, c takes d5, I think white could go in for bishop takes g6, h takes g6, After f takes e5, bishop takes. White can play rook takes f8, and notice the pawn on d5 is attacked, so king takes f8 is mandatory, and bishop d4. So it's possible that black could have gone in for this, but I think Richard was too scared to do this. Maybe he saw it, but against Michael Adams you don't really want isolated pawns and weak doubled pawns. So these pawns are tremendously weak for black, and even though this is given as an even position, black does have the two bishops. So maybe black could have gone in for this. It's much better than what happened in the actual game, but I can see why he didn't go in for it. Just due to play Michael Adams, it's a very scary prospect to go into an endgame with these weaknesses. In the game, black played d4, hitting the bishop on e3, and this bishop now just trots back to d2, so there's no worries there. But black's now just blocked up the position for themselves. They've basically just blocked this bishop in, so that's not good. And unless black can play c5, this bishop's also locked in. So I don't think this d4 move was a very good idea. e5 was now played by black, so this is the plan, to open the bishop up this way. But this allows now Mickey to play a good move. He plays queen h5 in the game. If white captures on e5, this is terrible due to knight takes e5, so this is just helping black. White can play knight c5 to defend the bishop, but black now can play queen e7. If bishop b4, he can play a5, bishop to a3, and this variation with knight takes d3, knight takes d3. Black can play queen to e3, and after king h1, black's in a great position. So taking the pawn is terrible, and this is why Mickey's a top GM. He played queen h5, so just attacking this knight on g6 with two pieces, threatening to win a pawn basically. In the game, black took on f4, and Mickey recaptured with the bishop. Just quick note that knight takes the bishop isn't possible due to queen takes h7 check. So black played queen to d7 instead, threatening to play queen g4 and try and swap queens off. If white plays bishop takes g6 here, h takes g6, queen takes, so white's just won a pawn, but then queen g4 comes. I don't think white wants to trade queens due to black having two bishops in this endgame and a passed d pawn, so that'd be very hard to defend. So if queen d3, black can play bishop f5, and suddenly after queen d2 and rook e8, black's position looks really nice. So basically it looks like a pawn sacrifice, and black's position is tremendous here. So taking the knight is terrible, but Mickey shows what a top grandmaster he is. He just calmly plays h3, stopping any queen g4 ideas. So black plays queen to f7 to defend the g6 knight. Mickey now plays knight to c5, getting the knight into the game. Bishop e7 is played to hit the knight, but now there's a sweet tactic that white can play. Maybe pause the video, or I'll give you 5 seconds to see if you can spot what Mickey played next. So what does bishop to e7 do? Well, it opens up the queen to attack this f-file, but that also means that it opens up white's f-file as well. And this allowed now bishop to d6. So white's hitting the queen and also hitting the bishop on e7 at the same time. The best move here given by the computer is bishop takes d6. If rook takes f7, rook takes f7, white can play rook f1. And if it takes again, this is actually terrible for black due to bishop takes c5, queen takes, and if bishop to d7, white just picks up loads of pawns like d4, if rook f8, king g1, bishop e8, and white can just trade everything and play queen takes a7. This is a great position for white to be in. They've just got more pawns, 2 extra pawns in fact, and we'll just run them down the board. Very easy to win. So in the game, black played queen to e8 here. But now Mickey just shows his superiority, and this is actually a horrible position for black to be in. Rook fe1 is played, so hitting the bishop twice now, and it's pinned so it can't move. So rook f7 is played by black to defend the bishop, and Mickey just removes another defender, so he takes the knight. Black recaptures, and Mickey just parks his queen onto e5, stopping this bishop from moving. So, and now they're also threatening bishop takes e7, because there are 3 pieces attacking it. So king f8 is played to defend, so 3 pieces attacking, 3 pieces defending. And the bishop is still pinned by this queen due to queen takes e8 would be mate. So white just picks up an extra pawn, queen takes d4, so black no longer has any counterplay. King g8 is played in the game. Mickey just puts his queen back on e5, pinning the bishop again with the same threat of taking. King f8 again to defend. And now Mickey just calmly plays rook to e3, so threatening to double rooks. To be fair to black, we carry on with a5. Mickey doubles, and after rook a7, now we've got 4 pieces attacking the bishop and 4 pieces defending it, amazingly. But this is a horrible position for black to be in. Mickey again calmly plays a good move, just plays queen g5. So they've still got 4 pieces attacking it, but this just gives white the option to take with the rook first. And also the bishop's pinned against the king and pinned against this rook. For instance, if bishop takes d6, white can play rook takes e8 with checkmate. In the game, black played queen to d8, so threatening queen takes d6 here. But now Mickey just calmly played a really good move. He threatens mate with queen to h4. So queen h8 will be mate. So for this reason black played king e8, and now his bishop is still pinned against the king. Finally, white takes on e7, and here actually Richard Pert resigned the game. So why did he resign in this position? Well, if rook captures on e7, white has queen to h8 check. Rook f8 is the only move to defend it. And after queen takes g7, there's 3 pieces attacking this rook. They can't take on e3 due to rook takes e3, and that will be checkmate after bishop to e6 and rook captures. So rook f7 is played, the only move. Queen g8 check again. The rook goes back, and white just picks up another pawn with check. Again the rook goes back, and white plays check again. The rook goes back to defend, and white finally plays queen g5. So again 3 pieces attacking this rook on e7. So if black plays rook takes e3 here, white can recapture with check. If the king goes to f7, white can play rook f3. And if bishop to f5, with the only move really to block it, just rook takes, king e8, queen g6 check, king e7 and rook e5 will be checkmates. So basically after bishop takes e7, black is lost in this position. There's a lot of ways for white to mate the black king, starting with queen to h8 check basically. So for me, I think it was all fine for black until they decided to play this d4 move. I just don't think that was a very good move to play. I think black should have just kept it solid. Maybe played e5 here or rook e8 and just try and stifle white's play. But d4 just sort of runs into so many positions where now after bishop d2, black's actually just locked their own position in and white's now free to attack. I mean, the plan's easy for white, just drop the queen into h5. They can even play rook ae1 if they wish at some point in the game. But anyway, Mickey's a really strong player and it's just a horrible position to be in. I imagine playing this position as black is absolutely disgusting and horrible. I'd hate to be in a position like this. But anyway, it just goes to show how strong Michael Adams is after he just defeated a really strong IM with ease. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the analysis of this video. Please drop me a like, comment or subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more chess videos in the future. And I should be able to bring you round 9 very soon, the final round of the British Chess Championships. Thanks.